And we're live now here on Patriots Central Radio. I'm Evan Lazar. Big show today. One of the biggest shows we've ever had on the program. 4 people on the line, 3 people with me, 4 including me. Matt LePan here as always. Brian Phillips, the Cap Wizard. But first, we have Eric Edholm, special guest from Yahoo Sports, the Shutdown Corner blog. Eric, thanks for coming on. Glad we got to do this.
Pleasure's mine. Yeah, we've kind of settled into May here a little bit. I can actually take a breath and not feel like my whole life is flashing before. So that's good. It's a good time of year.
Absolutely. I know you're a big draft guy, so I'm sure you are liking some of the downtime now that the draft is over. I know we all are enjoying it here as well.
Yeah, it's funny because, somebody will mention, oh, yeah, so-and-so signed with such team in free agency. And I pay attention to free agency, a lot of obviously the big picture stuff. But every now and then I go, oh, wait, that dude signed with that team. I was so ensconced in the draft that I forgot that guy signed with this team and everything. So it allows me to kind of catch up now and see where some of the smaller moves happened.
Absolutely. Well, catching up on one of those smaller moves now, LeGarrette Blount and the Patriots have had an interesting offseason, to say the least, after Blount set the franchise record for rushing touchdowns last year. Now seems like they're kind of headed for a divorce, but all of a sudden now the Patriots pull out a tender offer that none of us have actually heard of, and it sounds like it's kind of screwing LeGarrette Blount here, kind of a shrewd move by the Pats, but a typical Belichick move. What did you think about the Patriots sticking it a little bit here to LeGarrette Blount?
Yeah, and throw me into the group. I knew nothing about the rule, to be totally honest, and I over the years for stories and just looking things up, I've read through those rules before a million times. Never knew it existed. So, for them to know that was sort of their ace in the hole, if you will, and know that they could protect themselves for next year's compensatory formula, potentially. I mean, they may not get a pick, depending on, if Blount signs somewhere and it's for very small money or whatever, it may not factor into the equation, but it could. And, I mean, who knows? Maybe the next Tom Brady, number 199, is waiting down the pike. And I think it's just those little moves like that keep the Patriots ahead of everybody else. Now, to your question, yeah, does it feel like they've kind of done him wrong a little bit this offseason? And yeah, they have. I think they have. And that's a good example of how they do business, which is you're not going to play by our terms. We're going to play hardball. And we're going to not only lowball you with a deal, we're going to essentially kind of lock ourselves into a position where we don't lose anything. You can't really screw us over at this point. You leaving is not a bad thing for us. So, interesting approach. Obviously, with Gillislee coming in, with who else they
Rex
had there?
Burkhead.
The running back. Rex Burkhead, Cincinnati. Yep. Right. And James White coming off a huge Super Bowl. So yeah, it's pretty clear that Blount, I don't think will accept that deal and back himself in a corner.
So, it looks like Blount isn't going to accept the deal. He has until, I think it's July 22nd, to sign a contract before the Patriots, he has to be with the Patriots then until the first 10 weeks of the season, I believe it is. Do you think he'll be back with the Patriots, or do you think that this is all just a comp pick situation that they're trying to protect that?
Yeah, I think it's very unlikely. I mean, just the crowded room, number one, doesn't seem like there's a roster spot for him, unless they've said, okay, we don't feel like Brandon Bolden gives us enough, his special teams value isn't enough. We could still find room for him. It would just be a luxury, because if you put him on the day active roster, that means one of those other top 4 is sitting down. And, at this point, are you saying Dion Lewis or James White or one of the free agent signings isn't going to be active on game days? I don't think so. So I think it's more likely that he would find a place elsewhere where he could be that kind of change up back and that, that complement to a quicker back, that sort of thing. I've heard a couple options for him. Obviously, the Giants have been mentioned, other teams. So we'll see. I think his chances of going elsewhere are much, much greater than they are coming back.
Eric, we all remember the great Patriots and Colts battles from the early 2000s. It seems Bill Polian not over the fact the Patriots whooped him every single time. Came out this week saying that they're not as great as people think. Tom Brady's not going to play forever, blah, blah, blah. From the national look at this, did it come off sounding as douchey as it does to everybody here in New England? And what's your point of view on the Patriots window here as Brady's window starts to shut?
Yeah, I'll be totally honest, guys. I hadn't even heard the quote, but it doesn't surprise me. Bill has gotten, he's always been a little bit on the salty side, and I think, that rivalry and watching them win yet another one, and he's in more of a media role now. Right. It's got to. I was at a Colts Patriots playoff game years and years ago, and he was in the press box, and he was bitching up a blue streak, about not getting calls and different things. So I mean, obviously that has run deep. Now he's praised them before too, so I'll at least mention that. But as far as the Patriots go, I mean, it's funny. Like from a national perspective, I look back and I think, how exactly did they win that Super Bowl last year? And I'm not talking about coming back from 25 points. I'm saying Gronk out for the majority of the season. Them releasing and or trading 3 key defensive players. Chandler Jones before the season, Jamie Collins during the season, releasing the defensive line, Dominique Easley, before the year. It didn't make sense that they would be able to pull this thing off. And do so with other guys hurt as well and missing time. Tom Brady suspended for 4 games. When you look at the totality of what they did, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
well,
Eric.
guess what? One that won the Super Bowl a few months back.
Yeah, Eric, what I was saying is all you need to know about the quote is it started with, quote, Tom Brady was a quarter away from losing Super Bowl last year pretty decisively. They are a great team, but they're not as great as people think. That's all you really need to know.
Wow. Yeah, that's Bill who not getting his coffee in the morning, Bill. That's right. You can look at it that way if you'd like, or you can look at it that how they managed to pull that thing out is nothing short of a miracle in the circumstances. I mean, Atlanta was beating their souls. I mean, it was unbelievable. They were stomping them into the ground, and yet Belichick knew, hey, listen, we're still gaining some yards on it. We can make this thing happen. It was great coaching. It was not panicking by anybody on the Patriots sideline, and it was realizing that it's a long shot, but we have a shot. So, yeah, that's certainly one way to look at it, Bill.
I understand it from Bill Polian's perspective. Him and the Patriots have had their battles, but what more does that guy want? I mean, he has a Hall of Fame ring. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He was the general manager of Peyton Manning, Jim Kelly back with the Bill. I mean, what more could that guy want from a football perspective? And yet he still has to take digs at the Patriots when he feels like it. That's the part that I don't understand. It's like that guy is one of the most heralded GMs of all time in the NFL. I mean, what more does he want?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And it's funny because he's been pretty good to me when I've reached out for stories or, this and that. Other people have not had as good experience with him. But, I mean, I think I know he understands the league and he understands what's going on in football. I think sometimes he can let his emotions kind of run away with things, and I think this may be an example of that. Now, is there sometimes some perspective needed when we talk about the Patriots? Yes. I think people do either – give them way too little credit or way too much credit sometimes. I think there is some truth to that. So I think Bill in this case is going too far the other direction. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So one last thing for you here. Brandon Cooks, the Patriots just traded for him, obviously, right before the draft. Robert Kraft came out, said that he thought Cooks was the best receiver since Randy Moss was on the Patriots. Do you feel that way? Because I think that the owner's overlooking one Wes Welker a little bit when he makes that statement, as good as Cooks is.
Yeah, and Welker was great. You can't overlook – and obviously Welker and Randy overlapped, and they helped each other. There's no question about that. And Tom was on a different level, especially in that 2007 season. But, yeah – it's funny. There are some people in New Orleans now that he's gone who kind of say, well, he was a 2-route receiver. It was like bubble screen or go route. Well, I don't think that's necessarily the truth. I remember seeing him run some over routes, and he did go over the middle here and there. And, he ran some slants that I thought did some damage last year and the year before. But yeah, he may not have the size and the dynamic, winning in the air ability that Randy did. I mean, Randy could do things that, speed and size wise and just concentration wise, hands wise, that few receivers in the game ever have. So I can't really put their best playmakers and thing, because Wes was always, outside of a few big plays, I mean, he was a great third down machine. I mean, he was the guy you got 8 yards on 3rd and 7. I never felt Wes was like a monster playmaker. He was a huge, important piece, but just not the. Brandon Cooks can turn a quick slant into an 80-yard score. And I know Wes had that 99-yarder or whatever it was down in Miami that one time, but that was a blown coverage, and then I think Brandon can do things that Wes couldn't. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting comparison. I don't think it's perfect, but, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what he does in this offense. They're going to have fun with him.
He's Eric Edholm of the Shutdown Corner blog on Yahoo Sports, an NFL writer, NFL draft writer, one of the real good guys in the media, folks. Make sure to go follow him on Twitter at Eric Edholm, _Edholm, excuse me. Eric, we really appreciate the time this week talking Patriots and talking Bill Polian and agreeing with us that he went too far the other way.
Hey, you guys gave me a nice little line there at the end. I'll come back anytime you want, right?
Absolutely. Well, we'll take you up on that offer, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
All right. So, Evan, great stuff there from Eric. We're going to transition out of that talk a little bit. That was great stuff from Eric, but we have a little bit of quasi-breaking news hitting the Twitter feed, and something that if you are an avid listener here on Patriot Central Radio, you will be able to rub this in my face until the cows come home. Patriots, according to Mike Giardi of CSN New England, are, quote, dotting the I's and crossing the T's on a contract extension with center David Andrews. So David Andrews looks like he's going to be back in the fold. There was some hinting of this earlier today. But the Patriots they're looking like they're locking up their center long term. Evan, what's your reaction to this?
Well, my first reaction to it, and I think you probably would agree with me here, Matt, is I'm not so keen on the move, to be honest with you, of keeping him around. I think Andrew's a limited player. I think that his frame limits him in terms of what he's going to ever be able to do in terms of athleticism or size, really, overall strength. He's not a big, strong guy that's going to push people around, really. And I'm a little surprised that they thought that this was, a long-term solution. Now, we'll see. Maybe the deal turns out is only a few years or there's not a lot of guaranteed money involved or something like that. But if the Patriots think that David Andrews is going to be their center for the next, foreseeable future, call me surprised, because I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't either. I was the one who, I think in all but one of my mock drafts, had Pat Elflein being mocked to the Patriots. I thought that they were due for an upgrade. They could have used a bigger, stronger, more aggressive guy, but David Andrews, he's a heady guy. He's not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but he's the Dante guy. Little undersized, he moves well, but he knows where to be, and he calls out the line calls, which is no small task in a Dante Scarnecchia system. So I'm not shocked. I wish they had gone somewhere else with it, but if they can get him at a good contract, then I think that it's not a terrible move. It's really not.
Right. I mean, I think that the money in the contracts means so much in this situation. It's an upgrade from Stork, right? But it's a huge part of it that David Andrews, it seems like, has a mastery of I know it sounds so simple, snapping the football, but he truly has a mastery of doing it, and especially on the road when you have to do silent counts and you don't want to have those little ticks that give things away. I think that he's a guy that has played center for a really long time in his football life, and I think that that's a reason why the Patriots are so high on him, is because his football IQ and his acumen on the road, especially snapping the ball, is pretty damn good.
Yeah, and we have Brian Phillips here now. Brian, we were talking about the contract. I think he's back. I see him.
All right, great.
Brian, you're more the contract guy here. Can you take us through what you think some of these projected numbers might be? Maybe he's not back. I see him, but I don't think he sees us. Sorry.
We saw him, but we can't hear him. We're having some technical.
He's doing the mute challenge this week.
Apologies on that one. Oh, he's shaking his head in a sad face now. He's
He's doing the
upset about
mannequin challenge right now, guys. This is his first appearance with Matt, and he's doing the mannequin challenge. I love it.
Matt, let's just the Super Bowl, I think, was a microcosm in many ways of the issues I see with David Andrews. And when you watch that tape, it's a lot of them leaving him alone on the line and isolating the other four linemen. And Andrews, one thing that I always look for, and especially in centers, is are they going to put their nose in there and are they going to look for work? You know, when they're not having somebody right directly in front of them to block, are they going to go and they're going to find another guy to chip on or double team or whatever? Andrews didn't do a whole lot of that in the Super Bowl, and the Patriots really got exposed in that way. And that is, I feel like, just the number one issue, other than his actual size and strength and overall athleticism, that I have with him as a player, was the fact that he doesn't really seek out work when he doesn't have it right in front of him.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, definitely. The Super Bowl was not a good game for David Andrews.
Right, it's not fair necessarily.
If you were in my boat, if you're in my boat of you think they should move on from him, you'd take the AFC title game and you would take the Super Bowl and you would put that tape out.
Right.
He had two rough games there. I think that overall your point's pretty valid. He's not a guy who's going to necessarily take that extra step. He's going to do his job. He's going to do it well, and he's just going to do it play after play after play. Nothing sexy, but it's not going to get you the big blocks. He gets the job done again. I just think they could have upgraded. But if they get him at a good price, you're locking up the middle of that line with Tooney and Mason and Andrews, and you can have that for the next few years in this Brady window and maybe potentially even into the Garoppolo window or Brissett going forward. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from here with the contract and everything. I think that's the biggest sticking point for me.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that that's a really good point about locking some of these guys in. They essentially have 4/5 of their offensive line. Nate Solder is really the only guy that's not signed long-term at this point. You have Tooney on the rookie deal. Mason, I still believe, is on his rookie deal, right? And then Andrews now with the extension. And we got Cannon with the monster extension as well. The offensive line, it's young, it's healthy, it's under contract for the most part. And the Patriots look like they have their 4 of their 5 guys at least. If Solder, we'll see if he's here long-term after this year or not. But it looks like, at least from that perspective, they have 4 or 5 guys that they feel like they can work with and keep here for a couple of years going now.
Yeah, and they just drafted the guy who could be that number 5 spot.
Right.
They just drafted Garcia, and he's probably a year away, but that's what you have left of Nate Solder potentially. So
he fills in right there. Yeah, makes
he could be the 5th guy.
Makes sense. And we have Brian Phillips now.
Can you see me? I can hear you
Wow.
guys.
We can hear you.
We can't see you.
It's okay. We can, as long as we can hear you. That's the most important part.
That's I got a face for radio anyway, so that works. So fill me in. Where are we at, guys? I've been chomping at the bit here.
So we're just discussing David Andrews, breaking news that he will be signing an extension with the Patriots. We wanted to bring you in and discuss the contract terms, what you think it might look like.
Well, because I know the news just broke. I had a chance to look just really quick, and with center contracts, it's so funny. You've got your high end, your crazy Travis Frederick, Alex Mack type deals where you're looking around $9 million average a year. Obviously, he's nowhere close to that. And really, when you look at the rest of the middle of the pack at the position as average per year cash, it's really a lot of those guys on there are on their rookie deals. So you look at more along the lines of the higher end free agents, like a JC Treader, I believe, got around $16 million over 4 years. You're probably looking considerably less than that, somewhere in the, maybe $9 million all in range. It depends on, again, the length, and it also depends on, the kind of year he has, this year coming up with his restricted free agency coming in next year. You have to think that kind of value is wrapped into it too.
Right. So he basically signed, not that it's an apples to apples comparison, but contractually, he basically signed the deal that Malcolm Butler could have signed at a little bit of a discounted deal to get the contract before he hits that restricted free agency year.
Right. And obviously, with both of them being undrafted free agents,
Right.
that they do draw that same kind of comparison. Obviously, he's nowhere near the average per year, money wise. But it is unique to see a guy sign a deal this far in advance. It must be, in my opinion, it's going to be largely scaled towards a hometown discount type of thing. He's a player that you really wouldn't see doing much else with a lot of other teams. They love his intelligence, but he went undrafted for a reason. With the athleticism, the size, we've seen some of his issues. I don't know if you guys have touched on it, but some of his issues with speed on the interior. Guys like Geno Atkins had some success against him. Obviously, we saw what Whitney Merciless did when he was a sub rusher against him in the playoff. But Tom Brady trusts him, and that kind of trumps all. Moving forward, I would anticipate a really hometown friendly type of deal where you're looking at maybe $2 million a year cash. Obviously there'll be some per game roster bonuses in there, but a typical New England deal. But really, you're probably looking at the low end of the free agent, center free agent market.
Well, I think that we could all get on board with that.
Yeah, Brian, I'm not sure. This is our first show together here.
Yeah.
You probably have the leader of the move on from David Andrews movement. And he proved me wrong. Good on him. He's getting a contract extension here. He's going to be locked up. But
did I see Pat Elfline? I think I saw that.
That was my guy.
I thought I could see you mouthing Pat Elfline.
You did. That was my guy. I mocked him here, and he went 2 picks before the Patriots.
Well, you might not have been so wrong about that one. It sounds like there's some rumors that might have been Dan Feeney, it might have been Elfline, but there's somebody there at 72 that the Patriots, an interior offensive lineman that they wanted that got taken right before them. And it sounds like it was Feeney, but it could have been Elfline too. They were right in that same area.
I'm just going to say it was him to make myself feel a little bit better.
It was probably Feeney, if we're going to be real. All right. Moving on, though, we brought Brian Phillips on the show today to do a tradable players segment with him. He's the contract guy, so he'll be able to break down what contracts can be moved and what can't. Mainly, after the draft season, there's definitely a lot of vacationing, a lot of GMs and coaches are taking some time off now before training camp gets underway, but a lot of GMs are also reassessing their rosters and seeing where the draft and free agency, which holes they missed and stuff like that. There are definitely trade chatter going on now, and there's definitely the possibility of lining up trades down the road. That type of conversation is definitely going on at this point in time. So there's a couple of guys that the three of us put our heads together that we thought that we should discuss in terms of a possible on the trading block type guy. Obviously, two of those guys right off the top are Jimmy Garoppolo and Malcolm Butler. Let's start with Jimmy Garoppolo. What is the situation, Brian? What do you think that, from a contractual and a cap space perspective, is it make sense to trade Garoppolo now or to hang on to him at this point?
Well, yeah, with Jimmy playing still on the fourth year of his rookie deal, really the Patriots, a lot of people feel they lost a lot of their leverage not dealing him before the draft, because the closer he gets to free agency, the closer that looming franchise tag issue will start to come into play, and teams know that obviously putting down the money for a franchise tag, somewhere in the vicinity of $24 million, somewhere in that vicinity, it's crazy money, but you need to have that cap space on hand to do it, even if you plan on trading him like they did with Matt Castle back in the day. But really, if they were to trade him, going into training camp, you'd only be looking at it's somewhere in the vicinity. It's only the prorated signing bonus portion of his contract, which is just below $200,000 in dead money. And as I'll talk about a little bit later when we go on our rants, dead money really is not an issue with the Patriots right now.
So, Matt, what do you think here, bringing you in? Do you think that they should trade Jimmy? You think they should hang on to the future at the position? You think that maybe the Jacoby Brissett could be the guy instead? What are you thinking here?
At this point, hang on to him. If you're not going to get, the time to trade him was at the draft to try to get a first-round pick or more. Now, what's the reason to trade him? I mean, you can hang on to him, and if a team gets desperate mid-season, you might see, or during training camp, you might see a Sam Bradford deal where you get a lot more than market value. Then sure, trade him. But right now, no reason to not bring him into training camp. When we did our 5-question segment way back, I think it was 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, I said that I thought Garoppolo would be on the roster to start training camp. I'm not anywhere different on that right now. I think he will be here. I think he should be here. And quite honestly, I think that, we could be transitioning. There could be a little bit of a movement towards Garoppolo, depending on how this season goes. Successful or not successful, you might pick up more steam. You might hear some things in the background a little bit about Garoppolo maybe moving to the forefront.
Well, Tom Curran wrote that piece on CSN that got a lot of traction about the Patriots are going to have to ultimately make a decision at some point between Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo, and kind of the elephant in the room in that topic for sure is that nobody really wants to tackle at this point in time what they think is going to happen with Brady. But when you look at it, really, if Brady's realistically going to play for another 3 years or so, you would say, give or take. I mean, they're not going to be able to hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo as the backup quarterback for that long. I know that they could keep franchising him, but that gets you into a mess of cap situation that you don't want to get yourself into. Obviously, I think that you're right that the only real trade argument there is if they were to get a Sam Bradford type deal when a quarterback goes down in training camp. At this point, he's on the roster. I think it's really interesting, though, if a team gets desperate at some point there, before that trade deadline during the season. I think that you're really going to hamstring yourself, and you saw it with the Matt Castle deal when they franchised him and then they tried to trade him on the franchise tag. You really get pennies on the dollar, and I feel like the Patriots should get a lot more than that for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I thought all along that he was kind of going to be here because the Patriots have shown a pretty big affinity for him. They've shown that they trust him. They've shown that he's kind of their guy in waiting. If you really want to read between the lines what they do, he's their guy in waiting. You go back to when he was drafted. Bill Belichick said, we all know Tom's age and contract situation. From that point on, and Tom Curran said it, you just mentioned it, a lot of people are getting on Tom for the use of the storm brewing and the tsunami in the background. When you read the meat of the article, Tom was 100% right. The wheels were in turn on this from that very moment that Bill Belichick said, we all know Tom's age and contract situation. It's just taking a little longer to get there. And if the Patriots can hold out, they're going to.
That day is coming. None of us want to admit it, but that day where number 12 isn't the guy under center anymore is creeping up behind us. Like
we don't need to talk about this. We don't need to talk about that, you guys.
We're getting doom and gloom here talking about that on a Patriots show. But all right, let's move. In May. Well, there's nothing else to talk about in May besides the possibility of Tom Terrific hanging him up. But all right, let's move on to Malcolm Butler here. I know that these two guys, we've talked about them at nauseum this offseason about the trade, things here. But I with Malcolm Butler, I wanted to propose this situation to you guys because I think you can kind of draw a little bit of parallels to the Jamie Collins situation here. Do you think that there's a possibility that if Malcolm Butler has a similar start to the season as Collins did, where he's kind of all over the place, he's not playing at a Pro Bowl level, that the Patriots could pull a trigger on a trade in season right before the deadline, similar to what they did with Collins? Because that's the only situation now that I see him getting moved.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough. As we stand right now in May, we're not even, in the OTAs. Right now, I believe Malcolm Butler's, if you were to trade him, the haul you would be looking for now is even bigger than you were looking for at the draft. If you're not counting, obviously, the draft has passed, so you can't include those picks. So now the 2018 haul would have to be so much bigger. But going forward, you're right. If you get into one of those Jamie Collins type situations, well, then yeah, because you're not going to let anybody jeopardize the team, and Bill's shown that it's clear. He really doesn't care, especially if he feels he's going to lose you if you walk in free agency anyway. But until we reach that point where it's impacting practices, and again, I don't personally think Malcolm is that kind of guy. I think all that's kind of been media generated, and generated by that agent of his, but. until the start of the regular season, Malcolm Butler's trade value is going to be through, or at least what they're asking for is going to be through the roof, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I could see it happen if he did that. I don't see him doing that. I think that
Right.
Malcolm Butler has a lot more to play for than Jamie Collins did. As crazy as that sounds, Jamie Collins was he wanted the biggest linebacker contract in the NFL. And that's what he wanted. He made that abundantly clear. Yes, Malcolm Butler wants money. I don't think Malcolm is out there saying, I'm not going to, he's going to huff and puff because, he's not getting the biggest contract in the NFL. I think that he's going to go out there and he's going to play to try to earn that contract. That's always been the guy that he is. He always plays with that chip on his shoulder. That's a reason why Patriots fans love him so much. If it came to that point, absolutely. Bill Belichick has shown it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Logan Mankins, Richard Seymour, Jamie Collins. You're gone if you get into that mode. So if it happened, yes, I could see it. I don't see it happening, and I don't see him getting traded at any point. I think that you're going to have Gilmore and Butler across from each other all season.
Well, I think that's on paper, one of the best duos in the league. So you're not going to hear us complain if they keep those guys around. I just think that there's some parallels for sure about maybe getting out of Malcolm Butler's situation earlier than just getting a comp pick back for him if you were to walk in free agency. If the winds aren't blowing too good for training camp in August and the first couple weeks of the season, I think that it's possible. I don't think Malcolm Butler is that type of player, though. I will agree with you guys there. I think he's going to go out there and work his ass off to get the contract that he wants and to prove that he's worth it, really, I think is a huge thing is that I think he's been insulted by the Patriots that they feel that he wasn't worth a Stephon Gilmore type contract, and he's got a lot of incentive to go out there and prove them wrong. But let's move on now to another guy who is a little bit more surprising than the first two. This is a guy that I really think has a chance to be traded. I thought he might get traded on draft day. Dion Lewis. I know that it's a little bit, out of the blue here to pick on Lewis, but I think that he's tradable. And Brian, do you think that contractually he's tradable?
Contractually, he's absolutely tradable. He does not have a high cash value. I mean, especially when it comes to his actual cap space hit right now. Again, cash and cap being, need to be kept separate, but the dead money is only $200,000 to the Patriots. Again, that's not going to put them in a tough spot whatsoever. But as far as trading Dion, I when I first came on your guys' show a few months ago, I said that he could be a potential camp cut. Now I'm kind of veering the other way just because I wanted to steer against the tide that seems that Dion Lewis is out of town. I think he is one of those players that is able to thrive in the Patriots system, especially when you're looking at the way they utilized him in 2015. He wasn't that same player last year, and obviously that's going to show teams. If you can acquire 2015 Dion Lewis, that's a completely different story. But 2016 Dion Lewis wasn't the same guy. And they didn't even utilize him in the same ways. They didn't utilize him in the slot like they did in 2015. He did show health, and we saw him take the kick return to the house against Houston. But I think that's going to limit his trade value right there. And then again, teams look at if I'm not picking up the phone if I'm another team anyway. So this entire conversation is kind of crazy to me,
Yeah, I think that he's a tradable commodity because of how crowded the backfield is. I mean, Gillislee got a contract, James White got a contract, Rex Burkhead got a contract. It's a lot of people back there, but I don't believe he is going to be moved. If someone blows you away, sure. You take it. I thought that there was a chance for that. If you got a late 2 or an early 3 for him on draft night, you probably would have jumped at the opportunity to move up in this past draft, get a different player. But this roster, it's crowded, but I think that the Patriots have a chance here where they could bring 5 running backs onto the roster and keep that. So, you're looking at White, Lewis, Gillislee, Burkhead, Devlin, and Brandon Bolden, maybe. We all know how I feel about him. But Lewis, kind of what Brian was saying, is going to have to be used in that 2015 role where he's splitting out wide, where he's coming in motion, where he's all over the field. Otherwise, he doesn't have the value on this roster. I think that's kind of where they want to go. He's more than a full year removed from that knee injury. I think that's where they want to go with him. Yes, a tradable commodity. No, he won't be traded.
See,
Let me jump in real quick.
Go ahead.
Just to say, I've got his numbers pulled up real quick. A team that acquires Dion is going to have to take on the prorated signing bonus. Obviously, will stay with the Patriots, but you're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of 1.2 to 1.4 million dollars in cash for him in 2017. At this point in the year, after teams have gone through free agency, a couple different waves of free agency, they've signed their draft picks, they're kind of finalizing the everything in their roster, and they've got expenditures coming up like practice squads, IR, things like this, the 52nd, 53rd guy. 1.4 million to some of these teams out there that could be looking for a running back is going to be a little bit on the pricey side when you're looking at it from a cap perspective too. So I think that could hurt his value.
That's fair. I mean, I think with Dion, the one thing that I see, I look ahead to next year's draft, right? And the Patriots right now, the draft picks that they have that pick that's going to be going back to the Eagles for Eric Rowe. It's either going to be a third or a fourth round pick, which is kind of roughly where I think that they could probably get for Dion Lewis, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Dion Lewis becomes the trade that gets them back the pick that they're going to lose for Eric Rowe, because Eric Rowe is going to play over 50% of the snaps for the Patriots in 2017, which means that that's probably going to be a third-round pick that's going to go back to the Eagles, which is pretty good compensation for a player. So I just, looking down the road, I think that you mentioned the crowded backfield. My initial 53-man roster projection, I had Dion Lewis making the roster. I had 6 running backs, if you include James Devlin as a running back, making the roster initially. And that's a lot. And I don't know if all of them are going to fit. I think Dion Lewis could become the guy that gets a mid-round pick back for the Patriots, and it fills in there for the pick that they're going to send to Philadelphia for Eric Rowe. But that's just a thought process, and we'll see what happens. And I understand, your guys' perspective there too. But let's move on now. We got a special segment today. We're going to do closing arguments in honor of the Sports Reporters, which was a program that I loved.
Yes.
They did every week at the end of the Sports Reporters, they would do kind of a closing argument. One guy would stare deep into the camera and give a diatribe of sorts into the sports world. And it's something that I grew up watching every Saturday morning, especially was the Sports Reporters. A lot of really famous guys that have been on that set. So we're going to do our best Sports Reporters imitation. We're going to start with Brian Phillips. Give us your best rant here, Brian.
So something that's been kind of eating at me a little bit lately is, and it happens every year, and particularly with the Patriots, is just because of how unbelievably efficient Bill Belichick and his scouting department and pro personnel department are at identifying undrafted free agents and having them make the 53-man roster. Patriots Nation has undrafted free agent fever. And it's gotten to the point where it's a little ridiculous, and it's gotten to the point where we're starting to...
Give me that Austin Carr.
Exactly. Like
Harvey Long is going to be an all-pro.
Right, exactly. And we'll throw anybody on the street. It doesn't matter. I've got to have
the
this
next Geno Atkins. I'm going to keep
going. Right. LaShawn Daniels, Okay, so... And it all stems down, it basically boils down to my complete and utter fanboyness, love for Danny Amendola. But Danny Amendola is not going anywhere with the contract that he signed. Austin Carr is not waltzing in here as an undrafted guy, no matter what PFF numbers he's got put up. And, he played for Northwestern. He put up some numbers. Cool. Let's see him do it
against Ohio State. He put up 150 yards against 3 first-round. This is my guy, so you're getting me going by picking on Austin.
Yeah, and another guy, Harvey Lange. Yes, Bill, he scouted him, and he's going to be a first-round talent. Okay, let's pump the brakes, guys. He gave him $115,000 guaranteed. It was the most of any undrafted free agent. But that doesn't matter. They have no problem with dead money. Bill basically wrote blank checks last year and didn't care who he cut. Clay Harbor, Keyshawn Martin. I mean, you can go up and down the list. Dead money is all over the place, and it's not impacting their cap whatsoever. So Harvey Lange is going to be the perfect practice squad guy. I'm going to end it with my hot take. They're going to break the streak this year. No undrafted free agent guys are making the 53 out of camp.
Whoa, look at that. They're dropping the fight.
Yeah.
taking the flamethrower to it.
So you
Yeah,
really
none of them.
you really don't think a single undrafted guy is going to make the roster?
No, sorry guys. No Jake Hollister. Cool. You're going to be a
What
nice
about?
tight end.
But the twin story is going to take over training camp. They got twins on the team. I mean, that's a great story. Come on,
We got to bring Jason McCourty in now, right? We got to get him.
No, Darrell Revis.
Oh my god.
Give us your closing argument, Matt.
Grenade. All right. For the sports reporters, I'm going to look deep in the camera here. Everybody sees me. Nice to post this. I'm going to start with saying I like PFF. I like Pro Football Focus. I like the work that they do. But they put out a tweet today that, one, was insane to me. Two, just it boiled my blood. They put up PFF grades for Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski and said, the argument continues, ... What argument are we talking about here? I love Travis Kelce. If Rob Gronkowski wasn't in the NFL, Travis Kelce would be my guy at tight end. But Rob Gronkowski is in the NFL, and he is the best tight end of all time. There's no discussion. There's no discussion between Kelce and Gronkowski. Kelce is a good blocker. He is a good pass catcher. He is very athletic. And he is arguably one of my favorite people because of his dances and the gifs and memes that you get from him. Second to none. But when you look at the football players, Rob Gronkowski, I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, is the best tight end in the history of the NFL already. If he quit today, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's the best tight end in the game. He is an elite blocker. He's an elite pass catcher. He is arguably the toughest guy to bring down, and he does nothing but produce. Every time he has been on the field, he produces. Yes, there's the injury question. But Travis Kelce is that next tier down. I don't care about the grades. When I watch the game, I see Rob Gronkowski is head and shoulders better than Travis Kelce.
You know, I will say this. I agree with him 100%. And the main reason why I agree with him is because if you look at where these players are targeted on the field, Travis Kelce is a great behind the line of scrimmage, like a H-back almost, right? Like they throw him a lot of screen passes. They have him run after the catch a lot. Gronk is a legitimate deep play threat. He's a guy that leads the league in yards per reception. He's a guy that gets targeted, consistently more than 15 yards down the field. Travis Kelce is not a guy that the Chiefs are consistently throwing the ball down, 30 yards downfield to like we are with Gronk.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I try not to fall into the trap. I try not to fall into these off-season hot takes, but they caught me because like I said, if Rob Gronkowski wasn't on the field, if he retired today, there's no other tight end I'd want above Travis Kelce. But the gap there is massive. Rob Gronkowski is arguably better in almost every facet of the game. The thing Kelce does have, yes, he's more athletic and he's better in the open field. But Evan, you just brought it up perfectly. They throw him swing passes and screens and all this. Rob Gronkowski gets up the middle of the field, cuts in or out, or goes straight up the middle of the field, and he makes plays down the field. There's no messing around with the stuff at the line of scrimmage. He just makes plays down the field, and he gets into the end zone more than anyone. He gets into the end zone like a young Randy Moss did when you look at the numbers. Think about that. Think about that. The numbers prove it out. Like I said, I love Travis Kelce. He has some of my favorite touchdown celebrations. When he threw his towel at the ref for throwing the flag, I instantly gained more respect for him because, the refs can be pretty terrible, but he is nowhere near Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, you know what? Travis Kelce can throw a towel. Rob Gronkowski will throw you out of the club. And when Travis Kelce can throw a guy out of the club who's running his trap a little too much, then we might be able to, potentially start talking about it. But yeah, no, I won't. I can't touch it. I'm getting a little fired up. Sorry.
I think we're all in agreement on this show that that's a blasphemy of a take to even argue that those two are on the same playing field. I had a take all set up and ready to go here, but Matt just inspired me for a different take when he talked about the off-season hot takes that we hear from the national media.
Love the versatility.
I'm going to go off the cuff
Calling
here.
it audible.
I first want to say that let's please, to all reporters out there, stop asking the players who's the fastest player on the team. That was supposed to be my rant. Ever since the Patriots got Brandon Cooks on the roster, all it has been about is who's the fastest guy, who's going to win the race at the end of practice. Enough. But having said that, my real rant, my real sports reporters moment here is that my guy, LaDainian Tomlinson, who is one of the best running backs of all time, said on the air the other day that Josh McCown makes the New York Jets a playoff contender and that they're going to win 11 games and make the playoffs and that Josh McCown is going to be the reason why. And LT, man, I mean, come on. You were so good on the field. It was insane. It was one of the best players I've ever seen in my lifetime. But Josh McCown, let me read you off some stats for Josh McCown. First of all, he's never started a full season. He's only ever started, the most he started was in 2004 with Arizona. He started 13 games. In the last 16 years, he's only started more than 10 games once in his entire twice in his entire NFL career, right? His career high for touchdown passes in the season is 13. His career average pass yards per game is 173.7, and his career passer rating is 78.2. And you're going to sit here and be honestly serious about the fact that the Jets are a playoff team because Josh McCown is the starter under center. LT, do better. I know you can.
And Todd Bowles drafted 2 safeties.
Two safeties and I mean, man, that team and Todd Bowles also, another side rant to the original rant, is Todd Bowles, stop telling your fans that you guys are going to be good. We all know you're not going to be good. We all know you're not trying to win football games and you're trying to suck for Sam Darnold, be like everybody else that stinks, Cleveland, those teams, right? So stop going out there in your press conferences and telling your teams and your fan base that you're going to be good, you're going to compete for the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl and take that next step as a franchise. You guys are going backwards and we all know it.
I'm speechless.
It's laughable. LT, Evan, go take care of him. You're out there with him. Go take care of him.
It's sad what they're doing with these legends of the game. They're trotting these legends of the game out there to just embarrass themselves. Those analysts and color commentators and personalities. Let
me give you a little snapshot of what this is like and from the meeting room, right? Basically, you sit in the meeting room, you have a pre-production meeting for the TV show and NFL Total Access, Fantasy Live, whatever you want to talk about, right? They all sit there and the producer of the show will say, give me a bold prediction or a bold statement or something that's controversial, anything. And they will literally just sit there and they will shout things that make 0 sense whatsoever. And if they stick and the producer says, yeah, run with it, that's great. And the crazier it is, the better for all these people. It really is the case. I remember when the Cowboys were playing, they were still undefeated and they were about to play the Browns. One of our guys wanted to go on air and say that the Browns were going to upset the Cowboys. I mean, and everybody loved it. It was gold because it was controversial and it was it's the way it's going though, and there's nothing we can do.
I don't know if I'm been seeing things like the last 3 days on ESPN. In the middle of the day, I'm at work. I look over. There's a TV on with ESPN, and it's NFL Live, and they've got poor Teddy Bruschi up there with Trey Wingo and somebody else. I don't even know who it is, but they've all got hard hats on, and they've got tool belts. And they've got a ladder with different teams on it, and they're going to work. I don't know. The TV's on mute, but it's the 3 days in a row I've seen this ridiculous segment, and I know there's got to be some ridiculous hot take attached to it, and it just makes me cringe. What's going on with our NFL sports media these days? It's crazy. LT.
It is. LT, you're on the hot seat, but. Our producer, Brian, is going off in the comments section on our Facebook Live with Matt LePan about the best tight end of all time. I don't know if Brian can get on his headset at this moment in time, but what is it? It's Kellen Winslow is the argument here? Or
oh, no.
Well, what's his argument here, Matt, that he's saying?
Give me Kellen Winslow, who all-time great without a doubt. Tony Gonzalez, all-time great, no doubt. I would say Tony Gonzalez, probably number 2 all-time.
Yeah.
Rob Gronkowski's breaking all these records. He has 68 career touchdowns in 88 career games. He has the single season record for tight ends. Staggering numbers. Every time, yes, he has the health concerns, but he is the most physically dominant tight end that's been in the game. I'm going to stick with my take. He's the greatest tight end of all time already.
Do you admit to a little homerism,
Here he
though?
is.
Little homerism? A little bit? It's a little homerism I'm smelling?
Yeah, I admitted that. I fully admitted that in the comment section.
You think he's better than Tony Gonzalez, Kellen Winslow, Mike Ditka, Ozzie Newsome, Sharp?
Ditka, don't Mike Ditka us.
I'm going to Ditka you whenever I want. And second of all, I have to cancel the construction equipment for next week's show.
You love to come on here, and you love to throw these guys that played in the Stone Age at us. Oh, Mike Ditka.
What
Mike
about
Ditka, they didn't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field, and
They
Mike.
had 240-pound left tackles.
I think Tony Gonzalez, 14-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro, 270 games, 1,300 catches, 15,000 plus yards, 111
all those
touchdowns.
career longevity as long as he's healthy. Those are all career longevity.
But Gronk isn't healthy, though. That's the problem. Gronk isn't healthy.
But we're just talking about who is the most talented tight end to ever play the game.
He
Not
hasn't
necessarily
finished
not
his
the most
career yet.
Accomplished tight end.
I
but he
think
is
we're
the most talented.
counting the chickens before we hatch, people. My dog's agreeing with me. He hasn't finished his career yet. So to call someone the greatest of all time at that position when there are others who have a longer career with better stats and longer stats than him,
Brian, is Tom Brady the best quarterback of all time?
that's a different situation. You're comparing one to another. Tom Brady is the greatest
But we're not
quarterback of
bringing
all
in
time.
Dan Fouts into the argument like you are with Kellen Winslow and Ozzie Newsome. And
No, but my point is this. You're comparing Brady to Gronk. You can't compare the two. Brady missed, what, one season? That's it? How many seasons, how many games has Gronk missed? You're pissing my dog Coco off with this.
Gronk's
with this
only
argument.
missed 10 less games than Julian Edelman has. Wait, excuse me, than Danny Amendola has.
There you go.
It's been
I caught you, Cap.
Brian, you just heard our argument so bad.
Oh, I crushed it.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's the point.
Shout out to,
He's injured a lot. Like, the level of play and the quality of games he plays. He plays intense every single game. It's not going to be a long career like a Tony Gonzalez. That's all I'm saying.
Right, but why are
I didn't say Jay Ramirez is better than him. Calm
we're
down,
gonna
people.
sit here and make the longevity argument over a guy that had, a prime that was better than Tony Gonzalez. Alex Brown, shout out to you, old college roommate, always a friend, saying Tony Gonzalez over Gronk. I know, Brownie, you definitely have a little bit of Falcons bias in there. He's a big Matt Ryan guy, so that's probably he's got that Tony Gonzalez take. But you're not alone. You're not alone.
So Emmitt Smith over Barry Sanders? Is that the argument
Yeah,
too?
longevity over talent. That's the way it goes.
Emmitt Smith getting pounding 2.7 yards a carry out with the Cardinals. You got to creep over that Walter Payton record. I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
If you're using the ring analogy, Emmitt Smith has more rings than Barry Sanders. If you're going to use the finger jewelry analogy, Emmitt Smith...
Do not start saying that Emmitt Smith is a better running back than Barry Sanders, because we just lost.
Eric
Barry
Dickerson
Sanders
and
is
Jim
the best
Brown are.
running back in the history of football.
Eric Dickerson and Jim Brown are better than him.
Not true.
No. Oh, right.
I might take Jim Brown over him.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Listen, the problem with you two juniors is you don't respect the game before it was played before you.
That's not true. I hate that.
You don't go through the alumni edition and you don't watch the black and white tape because you don't pop
I
into
watch any tape you give me.
you don't pop into VHS tape to watch like Jim Brown, so you think Barry Sanders is better because the Thanksgiving games.
What are we going to watch? Inferior athletes playing an inferior game. The athletes these days are so much better. It's not even the same sport.
So you're trying to tell me that Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson, and Jim Brown cannot succeed in today's NFL?
Walter Payton wouldn't get drafted.
We've gone off the rails. The show is already going on.
Hold on a sec. Hold the phone. Brian Phillips is telling me that Walter Payton would not even go drafted in this era of the NFL.
He might be a lovely undrafted free agent for your New England Patriots.
I think we gotta go, Nat.
I think you two need to actually stand up and voice an opinion about Walter Payton going undrafted. I respect the fact that he jumped out and said that, even though it's verbal diarrhea.
I got to deal with it here.
I can't believe he just said that either. That's going all over.
Do you agree with that assessment, Matt Nevin?
No. No.
No.
Then don't put your stamp of approval. Speak up.
Hey, I'll stand on an island. I'll go down with the ship with this one.
We came in. We wanted to end this with some hot takes.
This is hot. This is burning me right now.
We took a torch to the entire end of the show here, and now it's burning.
I would love. Hold on a sec. I would love two other players.
An undrafted free agent in today's NFL. That might be one. I believe you might want to go check your phone. I think
Brian
ESPN might be calling you to be on First Take.
Brian, this is a bad first impression of Matt LePan. I want you to know that. I want two other names. Hold on.
Out there a little bit.
Real quick. I want two other names that you think that are in that era that you think in this era would not go drafted. Throw me two more names.
I'm lost in what you asked there.
I think somebody kidnapped him. I think the intelligent police kidnapped him after that latest statement.
We have lost Brian Phillips.
Wait, are you? I thought you were asking Evan.
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to the one who pulled it out of the bag here. I need two other players in that caliber era that you think, in your opinion, will not go drafted this year.
Doesn't matter the position.
Doesn't matter. All-time greats like Walter Payton. Throw me two more names who you think won't even go drafted now in this era.
Man, I'm really digging my grade.
What are you gonna say, Andre Rison or someone?
Well, Andre Rison, that's a little different story, right? Andre Rison, they would have looked into that background a little bit. And kind of use Andre Rison now that I thought about it.
Would Jerry Rice go draft in this era?
Oh, Jerry.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, Jerry Rice for sure would go draft.
All right, so
Rice.
Come on, the same guy who says Walter Payton won't go drafted.
Come on, it's Jerry Rice.
Who else do you think won't go drafted? Real quick, rapid fire.
5 pounds,
Rapid fire, Brian, go.
Rapid fire? I'm 28 years old. I don't have rapid fire.
Oh.
My brain really only goes back to Curtis Martin.
That's the problem. I rest my case, Your Honor.
Tape, you just proved Brian's every point.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
Well, I'm not putting Curtis Martin as an undrafted guy. Curtis Martin's my dog, man. I got a jersey in my closet.
Wow.
But come on.
I think that the two hottest takes I've heard on this program are both from Brian Phillips in the series about 10 minutes, I would say.
I'm getting right to some research. I'm gonna have a piece on this. I swear. I got to do it now. I'm gonna find 3 for you, Bri, and I'm gonna write an article.
Talking about pieces, Brian Phillips, tell us where the people can find you, read you. What do you got going? I know you had a great piece out about with Dante Scarnecchia, and I can't pronounce the guy's name. I'm going to butcher it. So I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, over at Pat's Pulpit, SB Nation, had a nice piece. I got to sit down with Marcus Zuzevic, the Latvian legend of undrafted free agent from Iowa. From the 2013 team, sat down. It was an awesome conversation. That piece got up last weekend, and then this week we'll have something coming up about the disappearing middle class of the NFL and the lopsided salary cap methods of some unsuccessful teams. So that's at @bphillips_NFL on Twitter.
Matt LePan.
So I am putting the finishing touches on an article that will go up tomorrow morning, talking about how the Patriots are loading up on running back to start the transition from Tom Brady to Jimmy Garoppolo potentially, and how that can be done, and why it's relevant. Looking back at the 08 season and how many rushing attempts they had and how they carried the ball, that type of thing, and just going over a little bit of the running backs who are on the roster. Putting the finishing touches within the next 2 to 3 days on my 2018 big board. It's already draft time again.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
And what I like to do is I'll compare this big board to my final big board when it comes to draft time and let everyone make fun of how stupid I am now.
Let me ask you one question about that. There's like 4 quarterbacks, right, that are going to be near the top of this draft next year. Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, the guy from Wyoming. Is your big board going to show that, or are you not on that train so much?
They will. All 4 will be in my top 50. Yes.
Wow. So 4 quarterbacks in Matt LePan's top 50. I know a lot of those guys are going to come off early on the board. For me, follow me on Twitter at Easy Lazar. You'll find everything there that I do. I'll be writing a bunch of stuff, so just check it out all on there, and it will be all there. And I want to thank Eric Edholm at the beginning of the show, way back then, before all the hot takes, for coming on the program with us. And Brian Phillips, we love to have you on. You brought the heat this time, and we're gonna have to bring you on again shortly to bring some more super hot fire.
I might have to explain myself. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It was awesome.
Go get right in that article on Walter Payton.
I think we're going to get our friend Steger World onto the program to argue with Brian Phillips about Walter Payton. I think that's Matt LePen's like, please no.
If I got to be taken to school, I got to be taken to school. That's all right.
Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks again to everybody that listened to us on Facebook Live. Thanks again to Eric Edholm for joining us. We'll be back next week on Patriots Central Radio. I'm Evan Lazar for Matt LePan, Brian Phillips. Have a good night.